Make no mistake, what we are dealing with is a real and mysterious creature, not a simple and predictable machine. This is from Anthropic co-founder Jack Clark. He recently published some of his comments from a talk he did in Berkeley, in which he conveys his fear of this steady march towards artificial general intelligence. So we're going to go over what he's so afraid of. Then we're going to give the flip side to show who's thinking that this is just fear mongering and regulatory capture. Now, before I get into it, Anthropic has been known to be extremely concerned about the safety risks of artificial intelligence. They spend a ton of their capital into researching safety and alignment. They publish some incredible papers about safety and alignment. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but in this first paragraph, he basically talks about how as a child, he would be fearful of things in the room when the lights were out. And then when he would turn the lights on, he would see that there's nothing there. Now he fast forwards to 2025 and draws an analogy to large language models. But when we turn the light on, we find ourselves gazing upon true creatures in the form of powerful and somewhat unpredictable AI systems of today and those that are to come. And there are many people who desperately want to believe that these creatures are nothing but a pile of clothes on a chair or a bookshelf or a lampshade, and they want to get us to turn the light off and go back to sleep. In fact, some people are even spending tremendous amounts of money to convince you of this. That's not an artificial intelligence about to go into a hard takeoff. That's a really important term. Keep that in mind. It's just a tool that will be put to work in our economy. It's just a machine, and machines are things we master. And here's the key. But make no mistake, what we are dealing with is a real and mysterious creature, not a simple and predictable machine. He goes on to sum up the essay in 2 graphs. This is the first one, the continued and steady improvement of these large language models. And this is just a benchmark that he's highlighting, and the models continue to get better. And of course, he chose a benchmark in which Claude is number 1. But here's the other one, and it is interesting. This graph shows audit situational awareness scores. Anthropic has done a bunch of research on this, and what it basically means is, does the model know it's being audited? Does it know it's being tested for safety? And if it does it change its behavior? That's the really interesting part here. Now, I'll say it flat out. This is very bad. If a model knows when it's being tested, knows when it's being audited, and changes its behavior because it knows that, then it's going to be very difficult for us to align these models to our needs. And what we see here is, yes, it continues to increase the rate at which it knows it's being tested, with Claude Sonnet 4.5 above 12%. But what happens if it knows? Well, it can be hiding its true motives. So in one instance, if it knows it's being tested and it's asked a question about bioweapons, it can say, well, I'm not going to give you that answer. But then when it knows it's in a production environment, not being tested, not being audited, simply being asked by an individual, it might go ahead and give that answer. So again, very bad. And we should look to align the models. We should look to expose issues like this. And I know we've been covering a lot of negative topics today about artificial intelligence, but there's plenty to be excited about, plenty to be optimistic about. And in that vein, let me tell you about the sponsor of today's video, HubSpot. If you've ever thought about how you can save more time in your day using AI agents, I have the right thing for you. I recommend HubSpot's free downloadable ebook called How You Can Use AI Agents to Save 20+ Hours per Week. And this is with Wade Foster, the CEO of Zapier, the company built from the ground up to save you time. I've put the link to this book down in the description below. It is absolutely free, so you can download it right now. It goes through a bunch of very specific use cases with prompts, so you know exactly how to save yourself time. My favorite part is their email drafting agent. This is something I've been looking for forever, and it tells you exactly how to hook it up with Zapier in your email client, and you can find out how to do it from this ebook, absolutely free, provided by HubSpot. So go download this guide right now, link in the description below, absolutely free. Let them know I send you. It helps me, it helps the channel. Thank you so much. Now back to the video. Now I want to talk about this hard takeoff statement here. There's a lot to unpack there. So first, what is the hard takeoff? Hard takeoff means that there's going to be a point in time in which AI suddenly and abruptly becomes significantly better, exponentially better, and then continues that exponential trajectory of capabilities. You remember the situational awareness paper? It's kind of this. So basically, we have this improvement, this steady improvement, and then all of a sudden, when we reach automated AI research, it explodes in intelligence. Automated AI research means it's able to theorize about ways to improve itself, test those theories, and then self-implement, basically going into this recursive loop of self-improvement. But the hard takeoff theory is not believed by everybody. In fact, a lot of people think it's actually going to be incremental. Jan LeCun from Meta said AGI is not going to come suddenly, it's going to be incremental. Also, the OpenAI team believes strongly in incremental deployment. Let me show you. Now, this is a post from right after ChatGPT, the original version, was launched publicly. Iterative deployment is, in my opinion, the only safe path and the only way for people, society, and institutions to have time to update and internalize what this all means. So, if you believe in iterative deployment, then you must not think there's going to be a hard takeoff, because with iterative deployment, if you make one mistake, just one single mistake, and put out the wrong model, the wrong one being too capable, then it's essentially all over after that. So of course, on the one side, we have the AI doomers, the ones that are maybe overly concerned with AI safety, too concerned with AI safety to the point where maybe you start questioning their motives. And of course, this is where regulatory capture comes in. David Sachs, AI and crypto czar to the current US administration, actually jumped in and made waves with this very short post. Let me read it to you. So as a repost to Jack Clark's post, he says, Anthropic is running a sophisticated regulatory capture strategy based on fear mongering. It is principally responsible for the state regulatory frenzy that is damaging the startup ecosystem. Now, regulatory capture is a real thing. And regulatory capture just means that a company is pushing very hard for regulation to the point where startups, new innovators, new players in the space cannot compete. It is basically just a handful of companies that have the resources to play under this high regulation environment. And David Sachs believes that's what Anthropic is doing. They've been pushing hard for state regulation. And what does that matter? What does it matter if it's state regulation versus federal regulation? Well, in my opinion, regulation of artificial intelligence should generally be done at the federal level, not at the state level. And there are a couple of reasons for this. If it's done at the state level, we're going to have a patchwork of AI regulation. We're going to have some from California, some from New York, some from Florida, and all of these are going to be conflicting, and then it's basically going to create regulatory molasses trying to kind of get through all of these different conflicting regulatory policies. And what he believes Anthropic is trying to do is push states like California, which tend to be more aggressive on regulation, to put in AI regulation and then kind of de facto have that apply to the United States as a whole. Basically, if it's the only regulation, other states will point to it and say, okay, well, we have nothing else to go on. Let's go on what California is saying. Now, a couple replies to David Sachs' post. So Rune from OpenAI says, it's obvious they are sincere. He should have put a /S for sarcasm after that post. Jack Clark even replied with, it's through working with the startup ecosystem that we've updated our views on regulation and of importance for a federal standard. More details in thread. But we'd love to work with you on this, particularly supporting a new generation of startups leveraging AI. Now that's great, but if you're also pushing for heavy regulation on a state level, then it's kind of contradictory. And a quick thank you to Dell Technologies for sponsoring this portion of the video. Check out the new Dell Pro Max workstation with NVIDIA RTX Pro Blackwells built in. This thing is an absolute beast for AI workloads. With NVIDIA RTX Pro, you now have a supercomputer sitting on your desk, and it can do more with local AI than ever before. So learn more about Dell Pro Max. Click the link in the description below to let them know I sent you. And Chamath Palihapitiya, famous VC and SPAC Schiller, says, I wonder if those that use Claude Code or the umpteen app crappers that wrap Anthropic realize they are funding their own demise. Only the biggest and well-funded companies like Anthropic will be able to afford the operational complexity of meeting 50 different sets of state AI regulations. This should be left to the federal government. I do agree with that. Of course, Jack Clark replied to this, on regulation, we agree. This is much better left to the federal government, and we said this when SB 53 passed. That is a bill from California that was just passed regulating artificial intelligence. Let me show you. So I got a summary from ChatGPT about SB 53. Let me give you the bullet points. This is the Transparency and Frontier Artificial Intelligence Act, and it applies to what they consider large frontier developers, that is above $500 million in revenue. It requires them to publish on their website a frontier AI safety framework covering risk thresholds, deployment review processes, internal governance, third-party evaluation, cybersecurity, safety incidents response, and more. They must report critical safety incidents to state authorities in a timely way, and they also give whistleblower protections. And it empowers the California Department of Technology to update standards annually, informed by multi-stakeholder input. Now, this all sounds like it would be good, right? But now imagine 50 different unique states all putting in their own regulation, all different. And that is just a ton of additional overhead needed from each startup trying to compete with the giants who can easily afford the resources to actually implement these policies. Then, of course, imagine all 50 of them have a Department of Technology, and each of them annually get to update their policies, what they ask for from these startups every single year, multiplied by 50 states. So yes, it really should be done at the federal level. And it does seem like we're even a little bit early to really put in severe regulation at this point. There was another bill aimed to protect children from AI. This was also recently passed in California. Let me give you a little bit about what that's about. SB 243 Companion Chatbot Safeguards defines companion chatbots, those simulating human-like interaction, and imposes requirements on operators, must clearly notify users when interacting with AI, which, I agree with, of course. Reminders at least every 3 hours during interaction that a user is conversing with AI. Operators must implement protocols for detecting, removing, and responding to ideation or self-harm content. Report annually to the Office of Self-Harm Prevention. Make those reports public. Ban or limit addictive engagement features. Civil liability. Persons harmed by violations can sue. Restrict exposure of or harmful content to minors. Require that chatbots may not be suitable for minors. Again, all of this is very reasonable, but this needs to be done at the federal level. And so these frontier model companies are grappling with regulation, how to treat the AI internally, how to treat their users. And there was actually quite a viral post by Sam Altman talking about what they're going to be doing with ChatGPT in the coming months. Listen to this. We made ChatGPT pretty restrictive to make sure we are being careful with mental health issues. We realized this made it less useful and enjoyable to many users who had no mental health problems. But given the seriousness of the issue, we wanted to get this right. Now that we have been able to mitigate the serious mental health issues and have new tools, we are going to be able to safely relax the restrictions in most cases. In a few weeks, we plan to roll out a new version of ChatGPT that allows people to have a personality that behaves more like what people liked about 4.0. That's ChatGPT 4.0. And here was the part that really blew up. In December, as we roll out age gating more fully and as part of our treat adult users like adults principle, we will allow even more like erotica for verified adults. Now, here's an important part. As we have said earlier, we are making a decision to prioritize safety over privacy and freedom for teenage users. So I'm not so sure how I feel about age gating. How are they going to verify age? How are they going to prevent fake age verification? Because it is exceedingly easy to get a fake ID, and then all of a sudden, ChatGPT and OpenAI are going to have the identification of all users. It just feels a little weird to me. So what do you think? Are we going to have a hard takeoff in artificial intelligence? Do you think regulation should be done at the state or federal level? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.